Hey guys, welcome back to our study in the Gospel of John. I'm Pastor Stephen, and John chapter 5, Jesus tells a man, stand up, pick up your bed, and walk. Today what we're going to talk about is the subject of faith in obedience, and not just faith that has obedience, but obedience that takes action. And we're going to put it this way, faith is obedience in action. We're going to be in John chapter 5, starting chapter 5, verses 1 through 15. Last week we saw how Jesus healed the nobleman man's son. All he had to do was believe in the words of Jesus and to obey. And he went home, and as he was on his way home, his servants came and told him that his son was healed. And at the moment Jesus had spoken those words, that was the moment that his son was healed. Today, we're going to talk about a man who had a sickness, it says, for 38 years. But imagine for me, if you will, that you have this illness, just like this man. Let's say you're paralyzed or you can't move on your own, you can't do anything on your own, and all you can do is lay on a mat or lay down on the ground for 38 years. That's longer than I've been alive. And there's a place where people go to get healed and rather have a chance to be healed. But for 38 years, you sit on your bed and you watch these people go in and come out, and whether they're healed or not, they're able to get in, and you can't do anything. You just lay there and watch. For 38 years, you just sit and watch people go in and people come out, but you can't go. You can't go in, and no one is helping you. No one is helping you or picking you up or taking you where you need to go. You're all alone. That's how this man felt. Then Jesus came along and he asked him this question. And this is a very bold question. He says, would you like to get well? Imagine if you were paralyzed and I came up to you and said, hey, would you like to get well? I mean, who wouldn't, right? But the man was more concerned with trying to get into the pool, to get into a place that could heal him than who could actually heal him, which was Jesus Christ, who was standing right there. And so Jesus looked at him and told him, stand up, pick up your mat, and walk. If you were paralyzed and you were laying on your mat for 38 years, and I walked up to you and said, stand up, pick up your mat, and walk, how angry would you be at me? Like, you don't understand what I'm going through. You don't understand what it's like to have been paralyzed or been sick for 38 years. I can't do anything on my own. And now you're coming in here telling me just to ignore my sickness, to ignore what's going on in my life, to ignore my circumstances, my situation, and get up, take up my bed, and walk? Who are you to say that to me? Yet in faith, this is what that man did exactly. Look at what it says. That it says not only did he get up, not only did he pick up his bed, that he walked away, and he carried his bed that had been his home 38 years. The Jewish leaders saw this man carrying his bed, and they pulled him aside and said, why are you working on the Sabbath? You can't work. You can't carry your mat on the Sabbath. Who told you could do this? He says, I don't know. But there was a man who told me to get up, to take my mat, pick up my mat, and to walk, and that's what I'm doing. And later he found out that this man was Jesus Christ, and that very moment he found out that it was Jesus, he went back to those same Jewish leaders and says, guess what? It was Jesus that healed me. So what can we learn from this? And what I want to say is this, is that when you have no one else, you have Jesus. And when the odds are stacked against us, when the odds are stacked against you and you think there is no other way, there is a way, and that way is Jesus. This man was alone, broken for 38 years, unable to help himself. He watched as people upon people came and experienced what he longed for, and there was nothing he could do. Do you ever feel like the odds are stacked against you sometimes? Do you ever feel like there's nothing you can do but just lie there in your situation, that your problems, your situation is so much bigger than you and there's nothing you can do? And see, really, sin has a way of beating us down, and the enemy tells us that there is no way, there is no hope, and the odds are against us. And we have no other choice but to roll over and lay in our defeat. Just like this man for 38 years was laying in his defeat. And really, when there is no hope, we lose focus, we lose sight, we give up. We can't experience joy. But there is hope. There is hope, and it is found in Jesus. This is why faith is obedience in action. We talked about that at the very beginning. Jesus asked the man, do you want to get better? Do you want to get better? That's my question to you. And that's the ultimate question. Do you want things to get better? Do you want your situation to get better? And there's that saying that, Jesus might not calm the storm in your life, but he will be there to help see you through it. And that's the case. Whether Jesus heals you or does not heal you, whether he takes away your situation or he just helps you through it, the hope is that Jesus is there. And we have to have faith that obeys, and not just obeys, but takes action. See, how can it get better? How can I get better? How can my situation improve? The answer is in your response. And that's what I want you to understand from this. This man had a choice to choose to obey and believe Jesus Christ. And he even did more than that. He chose to act, or to lay in his defeat, to sit in his sin, just to stay there and to give up. It's not enough to believe and obey. You must take action. And taking action means that you believe. And believing means that you will take action. These two things go hand in hand. It is not enough to believe. You have to act. How you respond to what you've been dealt will display your faith for all to see. Let me say that again. Maybe you didn't get it. How you respond to what you've been dealt, what you've been given, the circumstance, the situation that you're in, the problems that you face, will display how much you trust Jesus, your faith in God, how much you believe for all to see. Everybody's going to see how much you believe. See, show me someone who believes in the words of Jesus, and I'll show you someone who has responded by acting upon that belief. Show me someone who sits in their grief, their pity party, and I'll show you someone who does not believe. See, our faith, our actions, they display how much we truly believe in the words of Jesus when he says, do you want to get better? Do you want to be healed? Then stand up, take up your mat, and walk. So where does this leave us? Faith is the process, or is a process, of acting in obedience. And that's what you've got to understand. That's what I've got to understand. This man was alone. He was broken and had no hope. Then Jesus walked in. Hope had a name. It was the name of Jesus. And once he found out the name of Jesus, then he went and he told the very people that told him that he shouldn't be doing what he was doing. He was healed. His life was changed. He didn't care what was going on. And then he told them it was Jesus that was able to give me what no one else could do for me. As we saw last week with the royal official's son, and now with this man, you have to believe and then obey. And here we add a step. You act upon that obedience. You act upon that faith. Jesus said 3 things that I want you to understand here. Number 1, to stand up. Then 2, pick up your mat. And then 3, walk. He called the guy to do these 3 things. And these 3 things are something that we need to first notice. The first one, stand up. Get up out of your pity party. Shake off the dust of your unbelief. This is the first step, believing. If you can't trust God, if you can't have faith in Jesus, in the ability of the Spirit of God in your life, then you will just sit in your pity party. You would just sit in your unbelief, and you need to shake the dust of your unbelief off and stand up out of your situation and stand up in faith. What is it today that you need to do to believe that Jesus is here for you? The second thing, he said, pick up your mat. Obedience needs action. And here, obeying Jesus meant for the man to pick up his home, basically, to pick up where he had positioned himself. in his grief, in his pity party, in his unbelief. He says, pick that up. You're going to take it with you. You're no longer sitting in your unbelief. You're going to stand and you're going to walk in your faith. What is it that you need to do today to obey the call of Jesus in your life? Finally, we see Jesus told the man to walk. He could stand and he could pick up his mat, but before he needed to move forward, he needed to walk on his own. It was not just enough to have faith. It was not just enough to pick up his mat. He needed to walk on his own. He needed to live and embrace that faith on his own. It is not enough to have faith. It is not enough to begin the process of obedience. You must take action to continue in obedience. He didn't need to just stand. He needed to continue. He needed to walk. He needed to live his life. And that's what Jesus meant when he says, and walk, live your life. Live your life as a new creation in Jesus Christ. I've given you a new chance, a second chance. Now live it in faith and obedience and act upon that. See, obedience is faith in action, but it is also a process. What steps do you need to take today to continue the process of obeying the words of Jesus? See, this man for 38 years sat in his pity party and feeling sorry for himself, watching everybody else live their lives, unable to get himself to where he wanted to be. And maybe you're sitting here doing the same exact thing, watching everybody live their lives, watching everybody else follow Christ, watching everybody else weather their storms and trust in God. And you're sitting here thinking, why won't anybody come and help me? You're not alone. Jesus is there with you. And he's telling you, do you want things to get better? Do you want to get better? Then stand up, pick up your mat, and walk. And live your life in obedience, because faith is obedience in action. Hey, thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning into this message. I'm praying that the Gospel of John is helping you out in your walk with Christ. And if you haven't gone through this study with us, we're already in chapter 5, and I've gone through in depth the last 4 chapters, and you can see those videos here on YouTube, or I've shared them in Facebook as well. But if you have any questions, any comments, or you would just like to talk about anything we've talked about here in the Gospel of John, send me a message. Let's sit down. Let's discuss this. And let me help you, or let me pray with you. And let's take up our mats. Let's stand up and let's walk in obedience and faith to Jesus Christ. I look forward to next week as we continue in chapter 5 and we continue in the Gospel of John. But until then, have a good day, and we'll see you next time.